Hello, welcome to the first episode of this month series where I have guests coming over to the podcast to talk about a lot of different topics. And today I have Michelle, and Michelle is a empath coach, so she helps empaths transform their pain to purpose using the wisdom of the birth chart and tarot archetype embodiment. And I had the pleasure of having a very, very interesting conversation with her, and that is what you're going to hear next. I will leave all of her details in the show notes below so you can get to know a little bit more about her and show her some love. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, everyone. So, we're here today for another episode of the Mindful Introvert podcast. And today I have a very, very special guest, Michelle. I will let her say what she does, but what she did to me was give me such inner peace, just gave me a birth chart reading, sorry. And it was so nice. I definitely recommend. So that's why I had to have her in my podcast and share her light and share her energy with everyone. Do you want to tell a little bit of what you
Yeah,
do, how you help people, and how you've helped me?
sure thing. Well, thank you so much, Joanna, for inviting me to your podcast show. I really appreciate it. So, hi, everyone. My name's Michelle Saya. I run the State of Being podcast. So, I'm also a podcaster, and it focuses on how to help people that are intuitives tap into their gifts and become empowered empaths. So, I focus on a lot of empath mindset coaching, how to show fully confident in both your life and business, how to set intuitive boundaries. And I do this with certain methodologies, such as what Joanna mentioned. We did a birth chart reading for her. So I do that. I also do shadow work tarot readings, and that's incorporated into mindset life coaching. So it has a very mystical, intuitive element attached to it. And combined, there's also NLP and CBT approaches when I do coaching calls for clients, depending on what they need. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that's so cool. I had no idea that you did NLP as well. I do NLP as well. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And for everyone watching or listening to this episode, we are both INFJs, so we are very
Yes,
similar. It's so funny
absolutely.
how we just find each other and just
We have the
compliment.
same birthday, Joanna. I
Oh
hope
my
you
God,
remember.
yes, I
Yeah,
already
we
forgot
have
that. Oh my God,
we
no,
should
that's
like
wild.
when I was doing your reading, I beforehand I was prepping. I was like, oh my god, this girl and I we have the same birthday. Do we have like similar birth chart? And we actually like 75% of our birth chart is actually identical. And
Wow.
then there's about 25 to 30% that has differences, which is so fascinating because we have so much in common, but there are distinct differences that is kind of like our superpower. And there's a synchronicity whenever we have these conversations, which I love. It's
Yeah,
so cool that
definitely.
we connected. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say is your superpower then?
My superpower is I have this sense of inner knowing on what people are intuitively gifted at, but they haven't come to realize that themselves.
Hmm.
So it's like it's interesting because in my framework, my coaching framework, we have this thing called the Chiron placement, and the Chiron is the assigned wounded healer. And in the birth chart methodology, the whole concept is if you can tend to those wounds and integrate with that wounded shadow part of you, that can actually be your biggest superpower. The thing that we interpret as our weakness is the biggest potential for growth. So that's essentially my gift. I can kind of talk to a person and within 5 to 10 minutes. It's very scary for them, and a lot of people can get really intimidated. So throughout the years, I didn't really understand that. Like when I first started, people were really scared. And I'm just like, I think about puppies 70% of the time. Like when I'm not working, I listen to like puppy videos and like yesterday I was watching a YouTube video of like raccoons eating at someone's balcony, like ASMR, like raccoons eating like nuts.
Oh,
And my partner came out. He's like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "It's very calming. It's very soothing." So I'm very random. People may think like I have purple hair. She's this very like witchy girl, but like most of the time, I actually think a lot about like puppies, poodles, raccoons,
oh, I
animals.
love it.
And then when I am working, I just kind of like tune in. I like being able to connect with people on a really deep level. And I just want to bring comfort and safety to people. I want people to feel comfortable in their own skin and to not make them feel like they're alone.
Mhm.
And their weaknesses are really not weaknesses. It's just an intuitive muscle to exercise and to cultivate. And then there's so much freedom and fulfillment in that. So that's what I do.
No, it's very, very powerful what you do. And your approach and the way that you explain things is very clear. It's very easy to understand. And sometimes, like you say, people perceive the things that they perceive as weaknesses, and you bring them and you reframe them instead of being their weaknesses to their strengths and to that their superpower. And it is so powerful. And I would like to talk a little bit of our time together, that when we did my birth chart reading,
Hmm. Hmm.
that you basically said that my life purpose was to rest. And
Yes.
it's so funny because I've always been called lazy throughout my entire life, and I've always understand that as a reality, right? If more than three people call me lazy, I might be. And it has been very difficult for me to stop identifying as being lazy. Even though deep down I know I'm not. I know that I'm just, whenever I have an interest in something, I go and I get it. If I don't have an
Hmm.
interest, I just sit in my sofa.
Yeah.
And so that idea of having a purpose and having a why to do the things that I want to do, that is what matters to me. It's not so much to do the things just because. So I have to have a why. Why is always the most important question for me. It's funny because I never ask my clients why. And we learned a lot about that in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. But to me, that's the most important question in my whole life. I always have to know the why. I'm always seeking my purpose,
Hmm.
and I'm always trying to understand why people act that way, why they say it. And I feel like it's so powerful that just by the a combination of factors of our date of birth, the time of the when we were born, and the place, right? That's the three factors that you use to do the birth
Yes.
charts. And
Absolutely.
it's so interesting that just those 3 points tell so much about a person, and it
Yeah.
just matches perfectly to who I believe I am. Sometimes not
Hmm.
what people perceive me as, but who I truly believe I am. And that is very powerful. And you're basically empowering people by shining lights on the things that sometimes they try to push down and push very far away from them. And just yesterday, I had a client say that people say that she's crazy. And
Hmm.
then it's always like that, isn't it? When people say you're something uh, supposedly bad, usually that is your superpower. Or when people say you're too
Hmm.
sensitive, or you're too loud, and that
Yeah.
is a person's superpower. That is what is going to free them and is going to help a bunch of people. And so I found that me being lazy is my superpower, because I just find the most efficient way to do the things that I want to do. And I just don't waste my energy on the things that I feel are not right for me. And you gave me that gift. You just gave me that reassurance, and it
Hmm.
was very, very, very important, and gave me so much inspiration. And I would like to know, how did you start this whole
Hmm.
situation? How did you decide to go this path?
Yeah, sure thing. So I also wanted to mention, like I truly appreciate that you let me do your reading. I know it's such a vulnerable thing
Mm,
because a lot of people, like people are already walking around just feeling already vulnerable, and to also use now a tool and framework where we take it like 10 levels deep
mm,
right off the bat. And especially if people that have not gotten their birth chart reading done before, it can be very destabilizing in a way.
yeah.
So it takes time to process. So I really appreciate you, being vulnerable and transparent. And I hope I was able to hold that space for you. And yeah, absolutely. Like in terms of like rest and the word laziness, right? Since we're both NLP coaches, like laziness has such extreme connotations. And like when we think about it, it's like, what does laziness really mean? And I don't remember exactly where I read this. I read this a while back ago, but I read somewhere that when you actually allow time where you're deliberately lazy and you let your mind just not think of anything, that's when inspiration can actually happen. So it's like a form of productive, deliberate rest. When you're resting and not doing anything, but just the very act of resting, that's like an ultimate form of meditation. But just like anything in life, like we moderate, right? There's moderation of laziness and there's moderation of over, like if you work and you work too much, that can become problematic. So I think balance in everything in life is extremely important. And for me, um, it's interesting because growing up, I was often like told by a lot of my family, like members and authority figures, like just constantly telling me how lazy I was. And what's interesting is them saying that is actually a reflection of their own limiting belief because I actually put it to the test. Like I started journaling. It's like, how many hours am I actually putting into working and how many hours am I actually putting into resting? And so I go to school 8 hours a day, and this is when I was in elementary school. I started working for my family business when I was like 7 or 8 years old. Took no weekends off. And then I had to look at who was telling me that I'm lazy. And I look at these people, and these people were born into poverty, extremely terrified of losing their home, scarcity minded. They were survivors of war.
Mm,
So if they were not in a survival mentality day in or day out and they're just resting, they believe that to be lazy. And it's also a very like cultural thing as well. And
mm,
everyone's interpretation of lazy then becomes different. So I'm glad you're able to like see beyond the bigger picture and like be kind to yourself because it was very hard for me to be kind to myself. I truly thought I was lazy for the first
mm,
like 15 years of my life and it really sucked. And it turned me into a workaholic. And I
mm,
thought that was normal. And so to answer your question on how I even came to do all this, like this birth chart reading, um, it wasn't until about 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I came to finally do it. But before all of that, I was very people pleasing, terrified, shy, didn't really tap into my spirituality, like, did not exercise my intuitive muscle. I didn't even know that it existed. Um, I was so unconscious, so on autopilot, so living in scarcity mindset until working at my corporate job, there was a shooting that happened and I was held at gunpoint and I lost someone. And after that experience, everything changed. It's like something in my head just kind of switched off. And
wow.
I looked around my life and I was just like, what did I build? And like, what does this all mean for me? Like, this to me has absolutely no purpose. Like, why did I spend the first 20 years of my life building this? And the answer to that is like, it's because that's what my parents told me to do. You know, I was born into a family that heavily relied on the belief that you have to make your parents proud. You have to like do what your parents want, your family wants. You have to like respect them by fulfilling their desires. And so I was a shell of myself. I felt like I was a huge imposter. I didn't recognize my own identity. I didn't know what I stood for in life. I didn't know what my value systems were. And then that light bulb moment hit. I was like, no wonder I'm so depressed. No wonder I have panic attacks. Like, and I am so stressed out all the time. I'm just like this wandering ghost. Like, although I'm in this body and I'm human and I'm going through the motions, like this feels pointless. And so after that event, I quit my job, moved out, sold everything I owned, and then booked a flight to Bali, my first solo trip for 3 weeks. I took my first like eat, pray, love version, my own vacation or spiritual trip, I guess.
Yeah, I love
And
Bali.
yeah, Bali is so beautiful. And I was terrified. I had no idea what I was doing. Um, I gave up everything. I gave up my relationship at the time. I closed out all my friendships at the time because it was all built on this false identity that I created. So the people that I was friends with didn't even know who I really was. I didn't even know who I really was.
Yeah.
Um, and so when I left and I was in Bali for about a month, it was the first time where I was truly alone with myself. And I had no choice but to ask myself the question, like, who are you? What do you want? Like, what kind of purpose or legacy do you want to leave behind in your life? And to be honest, initially, I didn't have the answers. But the most important thing about that trip was I started asking those questions. And I just trusted in the surrendering of knowing that I will get the inspiration when it came. And I was already on the journey because I let one door close and therefore another door open. That was just something that I knew. And I think that was the first time my intuition kind of like flashed a light. Like, it's like, oh, Michelle's finally going on a different path. Like, she's listening to herself. Okay, let's start showing her these signs. Let's see if she picks it up. And so the next 5 years since that event was like, it was a wild roller coaster ride, but like fast forward to today, I don't even recognize the person that I was before. Like, I'm just so much happier, so much more fulfilled, way less stressed. I can sleep 8 to 9 hours a night and not feel guilty about it, but I still love the work that I do, so it doesn't feel like work. So like when I get invited on this podcast, I'm like, I'm so excited. When I like do this or talk to this person, I'm like so excited. I get to make choices that is in my desire each and every day. Like every single conscious choice I make fulfills that deep soulful part of me. So just having this conversation with you and attracting such a person like you in my life, everything just feels so natural. Like I don't feel like I have to fight it. And I'm just like, thank God. Like it should have always been this way, but I was just really stubborn. And so
I am so stubborn as well.
so
Oh my God.
stubborn.
It's like we're twins. I'm telling you.
Exactly. So yeah, like those 5 years, I like was a truth seeker. I read every single book possible. I explored all the religions. Like I explored spirituality, religion. I was trying to look for patterns and I was trying to see what resonated with me. I read the information presented in front of me and I let my intuition respond. How does this feel to me? Does this feel good? Does this feel bad? Maybe I can take a piece from here. Maybe I can take a piece from here. And then through that 5 years, what really was a constant in my life that kept showing up was tarot cards. The first time I picked tarot cards up was about like 3 years ago. And I remember like picking it up and I was a little scared by it. I was like, I have no idea what this means because it has such a negative connotation. People
Yeah, it
think it's
does.
like scary and like haunted, but it's really just a deep reflective way, kind of like a personal diary entry, looking into what you deeply feel and allowing that meditative space to look at the imagery and see what you notice because symbols are very powerful and you create your own story on what you desire. And although like tarot cards have their own meaning, you also thread your own personal life story into it. And there's like different themes. And so I'm huge on archetypes. I talk about archetype embodiment in my coaching practice through really strong, empowering tarot cards. tarot cards that are considered very scary, like the death card, the tower. You see all those movies, like if you get that card, that means you're going to die. Not the case. Quite the opposite. You actually go through something called the ego death. Like in spirituality, when you go through ego death, such as the one that I went through 5 years ago, um, transformation happens. It's kind of like Rise of the Phoenix. That's where you really receive beauty in your life if you allow that to happen. So, in a very long way, like that's kind of how I came into tarot. And then that naturally went into birth chart reading, looking at different aspects. Like I analyzed everything because I wanted to seek meaning in my life. And I wanted to know, like, why the heck am I on this planet? Like,
Mm,
I see humanity, I see pain, I see suffering, and I see so much hope as well. Like, where do I fall in with all of this? This is something that I deeply wanted to know.
yeah.
And so, me tapping into birth chart and tarot has healed me in such a deep way. And it's released so much depression.
Mm,
Like, I feel so free. And I'm like, oh my God, like, if I can help myself, let me see if I can help other people. And then now we're here. Like, it's just been such an amazing journey. And I just feel so blessed. Like, thank God I listened to my intuition.
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
feel like when we listen to our intuition is really what, when we set free. And it's so funny that you said that you were always wondering why we were placed in this earth. And I asked exactly that question to my fifth grade science teacher. So poor guy. Imagine the look on his
Yeah.
face when I asked, why are we on this earth?
Mm,
So he just
yeah.
gave it to a religious reply, But it's funny that there are people, especially INFJs, have that tendency to seek purpose. And
Hmm.
when they find their truth, like you found yours and I found mine, we can really help others and help them see what they don't see for themselves. Because sometimes I
Hmm.
get frustrated with myself because I have my clients say the answer and the answer is right in front of them. And I, as a coach, cannot tell them what the answer is. I can only
Yeah.
guide them to for them to find the answer for themselves. And sometimes I have to hide my frustration because I'm just, oh my
Yeah.
God, why can't you see
Yeah.
it? And then I have to just go a different direction in the coaching practice just to allow them
Hmm.
to see it, because it's so beautiful when they in fact see it for themselves. And that's how it's most powerful. So yeah, we give them the tools, we guide them through the process, but it's them that they need to see. And that's why it was so powerful for you, because it was you that you needed to ask the questions for yourself. And
Hmm.
if maybe were someone else asking, it wouldn't have that same impact. And I truly believe in the universe and manifesting our goals and manifesting our life. And it all comes down to mindset, isn't it? Because when we truly believe it's possible and start acting as if it's already ours, the universe will start to play by our rules and just do exactly as we are asking for, right?
Hmm.
And I believe, I don't know about what's your idea on destiny, but I kind of believe there is a destiny, the same way that
Hmm.
when I was born, at that time in that place, it was set in stone. And
Hmm.
it, yes, it shows across my life. So I kind of believe in destiny, but I also believe in it being more fluid and with
Hmm.
us being able to affect our own destiny. What is your idea on this?
I actually have a very similar perspective as you, and I love this question because whenever I get asked this question, it's from a person that does have a very black and white way of thinking about it. It's either you have free will or there's complete determinism, like you don't have free will at all. And my belief is the universe, you can co collaborate with it, it's co collaborative through and through. There is a part of it that is deterministic, but if we talk about birth chart and tarot methodology and we get into the spiritual nitty gritty, in terms of my belief. What I do believe is I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe in past lives. And before we come to this planet, to this lifetime, we get an agreement where we sign off, where it's like, okay, when I enter this lifetime, when my soul goes into this lifetime, these are the lessons and these are the experiences that I want to learn. When I come here, I'm not going to remember this agreement at all, but that's the point, or else how are you going, if you know that this is a lesson that you're going to learn, you're not going to treat the journey as sacred and as serendipitously as we're treating it now. And so memories, in some kinds of ways, it doesn't serve us completely. Like, we kind of need the childlike seeing things for the first time, experiencing for the first time. We need that innocence to really absorb life and the lessons that come with it. And then we come to appreciate it much more when we reach towards the end of our life. And so, with that, we have an agreement. We come here, we go through certain lessons in this lifetime, and you make choices. You make choices every day. With birth chart, it tells you what you're more inclined, what type of decisions you feel safer in doing. What are some things where you feel more vulnerable, where you might lean away from? So it's things that you feel naturally inclined to do or not do. And that might affect your choices. And so what happens is, after, let's say, this lifetime, you kind of assess all the choices that you made. It's like, okay, these are the lessons that I've mastered, and these are lessons I did not master. So in the next lifetime, based off of what I've achieved and didn't achieve, we're going to create a new curriculum, an optimized curriculum, to go over the lessons that I didn't quite master in the previous lifetime. So in that way, that's why I do see life as very co-collaborative, and the universe is very compassionate. I don't believe in concepts like heaven and hell
Mm,
and like sins.
yeah.
I believe that people make mistakes, but people can redeem themselves. Like, you can do good, you can do bad. There's no such thing as someone that's just purely good or someone that's purely evil. I think people are just complicated, and it's just part of
Mm,
the human condition to be kind to one another and to know that no one's perfect. We're all doing our best. We come here with wounds, life experiences learned from childhood, past lives that we carry with us. And when it's very unconscious and we're not aware of it, it shows up as like jealousy. It shows up as not feeling good enough. It shows up as anger, revenge, scarcity. Scarcity and pain can cause a lot of violence in the world. And
yeah.
when we tap into that part of ourselves, we can make more empowered choices. But to, yes, answer your question, it's a combination of both making your own personal choice
Yeah.
and also knowing the road that's set in front of you, and seeing that, oh, I more likely would make decision A, but let me try making decision B just to see what would happen, because I'm curious. Yeah.
I love that. I love how you say to discover the patterns, because when we discover the patterns, we can we can almost know the future, because if we have this self-talk that is very negative and we are blaming ourselves, and we can ask the questions like you did to yourself. We can start to ask the questions, I wonder, why am I doing this to myself? What is making me feel this way? What is the situation that caused this? And what how can I regain power over my own emotions, my own thoughts? And just that being curious is very important when you are setting those patterns and
Mhm.
discovering these patterns. And that is a lesson of mindfulness as well. The beginner's mind, isn't it? To have that curiosity and never lose it, and always look at things as if it's the first time. And I do this a lot with my clients when I have them say emotions. Oh, I get frustrated. And I say, I'm an alien that come to this country, to this earth, planet Earth, and I know nothing about being frustrated. So you have to, and you have to explain it to me
Yeah.
so I can understand what goes on in your mind, and I can help you
Mhm.
from then. But because that's how we become curious, and that's how we get to the bottom of things. But getting to the bottom of things, I feel like it can become very uncomfortable. And
Mm.
people are afraid of going past that comfort zone and that vulnerable. That's a difficult word. Help me out.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerable.
Vulnerability. Yeah, I got you,
Vulnerable.
girl. It's
That's one.
Monday. It's the beginning of the week.
It is a very
Yeah.
difficult. This English language has its own things. So yeah,
Yeah.
people have that struggle of going past becoming vulnerable.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
what would be your tips, because you've been through it, you
Mhm.
allowed yourself to go deep in your thoughts and your emotions and get to know who you truly are? What
Mhm.
would be the tips that you would give to everyone who is watching us or who is listening to us,
Mhm.
to help them out becoming okay, accepting the process and not resisting it?
Absolutely. So, one way to start off with being more vulnerable, and this seems very interesting approach, but it's whenever a judgment comes up where you're perceiving something or someone else. Most oftentimes, when we start by trying to rewire the way we see a certain situation, or if we see someone behave in a certain way, a judgment comes up. If we can kind of take a step back and before we make a internal statement of like I'm judging this person, if you can kind of be more sensitive to that and be like, okay, what is a story that I'm not seeing that can change my judgment about this? Like, what is there another dialogue that's happening that I'm unaware of that would change my perception of what I'm perceiving right in this moment? And when you do that, you become more human in a way because we live in a society where judgment is rampant. And so the more judgment society builds, the more we become scared of being vulnerable. It's a catch 22. What we see in our life in the form of people and what we attract and what we come across is a direct mirror of the shadow work. And when I say shadow work, it's just a term for healing the uncomfortable parts of yourself that you're unwilling to look at. There's nothing occult about it. It's very psychological. We project the things that we deeply fear or the things that we haven't fully embraced when we make a judgment about something that we see outside of us. And so, if you're not ready to get vulnerable just yet, the first step is to change the dialogue of judgment when you see someone else, because that will help build up your courage muscle to start looking within yourself.
Hmm.
Through your exercise of judging less, that's when you kind of instinctively kind of become more kind to yourself, like more willing to look at the part of yourselves that are like, oh, well, if that person might be experiencing this, then I can kind of see how at times I quickly jump into this conclusion. And I now understand. Therefore, I don't feel as tough on myself when it comes to this aspect. Like that's kind of like a natural side effect of starting to kind of lessen that judgment when you're going into the outside world.
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
really enjoy that tip because it's funny. I grew up, well, my culture is very culture of gossip. Okay. So we
Hmm.
have these old ladies that gossip all the time and they sit by the balcony and they see people go in the street and they say, oh, look at that person wearing that thing.
Yeah.
So crazy. Look how it just looks so silly. And so I grew
Hmm.
up like that and I felt like that was normal. And then
Hmm.
obviously it's not normal. And when I was doing the self discovery and the self awareness process and doing the inner work, I continue to judge people, but judge them in a
Hmm.
different way. So now what I do is I look at people and I look for things that are
Hmm.
pleasant about them. So it can be what they're
Hmm.
wearing, what their body language is, or if they're talking to me, what they are saying, their voice. So I'm still judging, but I'm looking for things that I like about them. And
Hmm.
that just makes my brain, um, because if I tell my brain, you have to stop judging, it's going to be so much more difficult than if I
Mhm.
just do that agreement with it and saying, okay, you can continue to judge, but from
Yeah.
now on, from now on, you are looking for the positive instead of the negative. And that is just
Mhm.
reprogramming my brain to look for the positive. And if I'm looking for the positive in other people, I also look for the positive in myself. And so
Mhm.
I feel like that has become very powerful practice, and it makes me feel better about myself, about other people. Just it's more joy in my day instead of me looking, oh, look at that person, look so
Yeah.
silly, and you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
that is very powerful. So I
Mhm.
think I would love to hear how people can work with you and how people can
Mhm.
find you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So, my website, you can actually find all the information that you need, and it also lists my coaching services. And if you want to get a birth chart intuitive reading, just like how Joanna did, you can also go to my website and michellesaya.com. So, it's just spelled MICHELLESAYA.com. And then my Instagram is the same, Michelle underscore Saya. That's where I'm constantly there interacting with people. So if you want to shoot a DM, send some love, feel free. I'm happy to, message you back and talk about what we can get started to start getting you more intuitive, tapping into your birth chart, and just coming home to yourself.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
recommend. I will leave all of Michelle's information in the show notes, so you can go directly to her website and her Instagram. And just to do a recap, is there anything that you would like to add to our conversation? So we talked about
Hmm.
what was your journey, how important it is to make the questions and allow yourself to become vulnerable, and
Hmm.
instead of resisting, become welcoming and become more kind, and go easy on yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Trust the process, trust the universe, cooperate with the universe, and get to know truly who you are, right?
Yeah.
um, so yeah, would you like to add anything else to this?
Sure. I think the last thing that I would like to add is I wish everyone won't feel guilty of resting. Like,
Mm,
resting is so important. I can't tell you how many times this past week, how many phone calls and coaching calls I got on where people were like sick, like near tears, like burnt out,
mm,
working 12, 15-hour days, um, having poor sleep and rest, not eating right, just so anxious about the future. And
yeah,
I just want to let everyone out there know that really trust in the timing of your life. The thing that you want to get done will get done with the priority of like cultivating rest. Because when
yeah,
you're resting, that's where inspiration can come. That's when your intuition can be at its sharpest. So if you want to exercise your intuitive muscle and you want to show up like at your most compassionate, really rest, really be kind to yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is very powerful. Oh my God, you talk and I just have more and more to add. We would be here forever, forever. But an extra pro tip that I have, that I actually gave my client
Yeah.
yesterday when we were having a call, she was exactly like you are describing, and I actually gave her this tip. So when you are scheduling your day, schedule
Mm.
your rest time before. So always schedule your
Mm.
rest time before
I
you
love that.
schedule anything else, because without your rest, you won't be able to achieve anything properly. You
Hmm.
won't be able to achieve,
Exactly.
because you'll be stressing out and, oh, I have this to do and I have this to do. So when you are scheduling your day, your week, your to-do list, your calendar, putting the rest time before is very powerful. It
Yeah.
can seem a bit counterproductive and it can seem a bit odd to schedule the resting time before, but it's going to just adjust your whole day and your whole tasks around your resting time that is your priority. So
Hmm.
yeah, I guess that was it for this episode. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming
Joanna.
here.
I
I
feel so
loved it
honored.
so much. and
This is so much fun.
I could talk to you for the rest of the
I
evening.
know, right? I love talking to you. You're so much fun to talk to.
Yeah, it was really, really good. So, yeah, I'll leave everything in the show notes for everyone to go and meet Michelle, show her some love, show me some love as well on my Instagram. You can find me as well on the show notes. And I guess I will see you all next time.
Awesome. Take care,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.